Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Welcome back. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Police are still searching for the gunman behind yesterday's suspected drive-by shooting in central London. A 7-year-old girl remains in a critical condition after being shot outside a church near Euston. 4 women and a second child, aged 12, were also taken to hospital, with one of them suffering life-changing injuries. Police say shots were fired from a moving black Toyota as mourners left a funeral service. Labour is calling for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard to be branded a terrorist group following the execution of a British-Iranian national. Ali Reza Akbari was killed after being accused of spying for MI6. Labour described the execution as barbaric and said the special branch of Iran's armed forces pose a growing threat to the UK. While the government has sanctioned Iran's Prosecutor General, is planning to withdraw its ambassador to Iran and is also considering further action. At least 68 people have been killed in a plane crash in Nepal, the country's worst aviation disaster in 3 decades. 72 people were on board the Yeti Airlines flight that crashed in Pokhara during clear skies. Those on board included passengers from India, Ireland, Australia and France. All but 4 of the bodies have been recovered. The search operation has been paused until tomorrow morning. At least 30 people have been killed and 30 more are being treated in hospital after a Russian missile hit an apartment building in central Ukraine. Rescue efforts are still continuing, with officials saying dozens could be still trapped under the rubble. Yesterday, Russia launched a major missile attack on Ukraine, striking vital energy facilities across the country. A man has been arrested under terrorism laws after traces of uranium were found in a package at Heathrow Airport. Border Force officers detected the radioactive material in a shipment of scrap metal at the end of December. The Met Police confirmed there was no evidence the package posed a direct threat to the public. The man has been released on bail until April. And snow and ice is expected across much of the UK, with temperatures set to drop below 0 in most places overnight. The Met Office has issued several yellow weather warnings for ice in Scotland, Wales and the north of England. It's also warning motorists of difficult driving conditions tonight as heavy snow falls in parts of the country. The Environment Agency also issued 180 flood alerts this afternoon. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB plus radio. This is GB News. Now, it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm your host, Stephen Allen. I'll be taking you through Monday's top stories. Joining me tonight are headline stalwarts comedians Leo Kearse and Carey Marks. Now, first, let's have a quick look at what Monday's front pages have in store for us. The Telegraph, terror arrest over uranium discovery. The Eye goes with pupils face online lessons as teachers plan strike. The Guardian, fury over PM's bid to hand police sweeping powers to halt protests. The Mirror says New Hope killer will not go free, boost for James Bulger mum. The Sun, Harry envied Will's sausage. The Metro, senseless violence. Police condemn drive-by gun maniac's rampage at funeral. And the Daily Star, deal with the devil. Surge in youngsters turning to Satanism. And those are your front pages. Let's find out what some of that's about. We kick off with the Metro, Leo. Talk us through the front page.
So the front page says the police have condemned the senseless violence of the drive-by gun maniacs. They shot people coming out of a funeral in London. So, yeah, the police have condemned that senseless violence. They prefer more sensible violence. because this apparently, I mean, it's absolutely shocking. So, a 7-year-old girl is in hospital and seriously injured. Somebody else's life-changing injuries. So this is very serious. Although there's no deaths, it's very serious. 6 people injured, and apparently it's a case of they're just caught up in the crossfire. So they weren't obviously. I mean, why would anybody have a grudge against a 7-year-old girl? But they were trying to shoot somebody who attended the funeral. They say they're speculating here. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but there've been a lot of random people caught up in crossfire. There's the woman in Liverpool who was shot. There's been some other ones. There's the terrible case of the young girl with the Lithuanian mum who shot someone in the Midlands. So there's been a few of these things, and it's because criminals can just act with impunity now. They don't seem to care about the law because the police are too busy focused on virtue signalling and arresting people for tweeting limericks, because that's easy. You're not going to get, you don't need to get any ruffians in a headlock. Whereas actual criminals, Sadiq Khan's Met Police, are just letting them do what they want. This happened in Euston, in broad daylight in the middle of London.
I suppose the pushback on that would be to say the police are interested in this. They're not dismissing this. They're not, oh, we don't care what happened. We're too busy doing virtue signaling. I take the point, but it's not that this doesn't meet their bar over which a crime has to jump.
Yeah, but imagine if the police, instead of designing some sort of, transgender pride rainbow flag shield or something, or crossing or whatever it is, instead of putting their effort into that or into, whatever diversity, inclusion and equality surveys or whatever that are completely unnecessary, instead of doing that, if they focused on tracking down and finding out who are in these criminal gangs and stopping them getting access to weapons and making sure they don't feel that they can commit crimes like this.
And Kerry, I mean, it's difficult to know what to say other than
it's tragic. There's not a lot to say about it. It's surreal, isn't it? Because this isn't a crime we expect in Britain. It's very much this is mob violence, and a gang shooting outside of a church is a really odd thing to happen. So. And I think the police are right, as you say, the police condemn it. So I'd agree with them on that.
Yeah.
Perfectly. I think it's definitely condemnable.
It says something when the police condemning a shooting of a 7-year-old girl is news.
Yeah.
But good on them for condemning that.
The use of a shotgun as well.
Yeah,
which
it's
you can't
odd.
aim to make sure you don't hit people who aren't your intended target. Shows... Well, it's even worse. They're all terrible, aren't they? I mean, it's difficult to know what to say. So maybe we move on to The Telegraph next. And what are they running on their front page, Kerry?
This is the terror arrest over uranium, which happened at Heathrow Airport. And I find it quite amusing on the front page. They've got a picture of Kate Blanchett looking like she was the terrorist who did this. It even says Kate's Golden Glow, which I think is probably from the uranium. Her Golden Glow, I think, is because she's expecting to get a BAFTA this week. It's not, I should find out, it's not because she's been arrested for bringing uranium into the country. So, it was someone brought some uranium in, which he should have not gone through the nothing to declare, really. I mean, you're supposed to say, what have you got on you? A little bit of uranium. Did you pack it yourself?
Is it less than 2 litres?
Yeah. I'd like to know what excuses were made for it. These days it could be, it was a new whitening tooth remedy I got from TikTok. So anything could be possible. It was an Iranian registered business in the UK. So the man was 60 years old. He could impact already heightened tensions between London and Tehran following the execution of a British-Iranian dual national charged with spying for MI6. And I think the article then turns into what's been going on between Britain and Iran recently, which, of course, is another story.
There's no good reason to be bringing uranium into the country, is there? Because if it's not a bomb or a nuclear power station or chemical tests...
You'd accept it if it was one of those, would you? You go, well, that makes perfect sense.
There's not many nice uses for uranium. I mean, unless you're going to generate electricity in a nuclear reactor. But I don't think they brought a nuclear reactor as well. No. But it was interesting, they brought it in a consignment of scrap metal intended for an Iranian business in the UK, but they're bringing scrap metal by air. I mean, air freight is notoriously expensive. You think you're going to bring scrap metal? That's going to be...
It's quite hefty as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds suspicious to me.
But unless I'm missing it, there's nothing actually in the article saying what they said the uranium was for.
No.
Right? So,
I guess they're going to ask him. That's what the police... When they finished getting the Rainbow Pride travel crossings.
You're obsessed, man. You're obsessed with this.
They're going to finally spare a couple of hours to go in and ask him what it was for.
Previous news stories on this topic had said that the idea was maybe they were just testing the ability to bring things into the country. So that actual small amount of uranium might not have been used for anything, but it's more about seeing how you could get these dirty radioactive chemicals in.
Right.
Oh, so they do this is the test thing. This is sending somebody through with a wrap of cocaine before you send them through with 20 kilos.
Yeah, I mean, that's possibly another way they might try and do the uranium. Pop it in a condom, get someone to swallow it, see what happens. Shh. Don't think it's going to work out well for someone.
If someone does that now, it's on you. You know that.
Oops. Well, let's move on now to The Guardian. What's on the front page, Leo?
So there was fury over the Prime Minister's bid to hand police sweeping powers to halt protests. I mean, I doubt they'd ever use those powers.
What would they be busy doing?
They'd be busy making some sort of rainbow traffic crossing. Why am I calling them... They're not called traffic crossings. Zebra crossing. Zebra crossing.
That's still a traffic crossing. You weren't
It's a
wrong.
traffic crossing.
Yeah. You're still obsessed, though.
I'm still obsessed, yeah. But this is because of the environmental protest where people have been walking slowly in front of cars. And then the police have said, well, we can't do anything. They're not blocking the road. I mean, they're obviously blocking the road because they're walking in the road. But the police say, we can't do anything because they're moving, they're walking. So that's the excuse the police give for not arresting them. Now the police are going to be given powers to arrest people who do that. But people are saying this infringes on civil liberties, and these powers are being brought through without proper scrutiny and all the rest of it. So I mean, it's difficult. On the one point, on the one hand, you've got the loss of civil liberties and hard-fought individual rights. But on the other hand, I'd love to see the police just weighing into some of those net zero people with truncheons, just knocking about as they did in Germany, as we're gonna see a bit later on.
And Kerry, the idea of arresting people for walking slowly, surely that on its own is a good point, isn't it? Slow.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. The people who just stop in front of you, they should be arrested. You know, when you're out on a busy Saturday shopping, and I don't understand how anyone can see there's people passing by in both directions at speed and suddenly think there's no one behind me. I'm just going to stand still on a street, and you always end up sort of tapping them on the shoulder or trying to get around. And I found the secret, by the way, when someone just stops in front of you, just whisper in their ear gently, just go, move the left foot. And they just start up again because the brain stopped. I find this really funny. The police are being given powers to stop the fury over the plans for public order crackdown. So what we're doing now is the police to have powers to stop the fury that's going to come from the police having powers to stop the fury over a public crackdown. So it's just catch-22 now.
I don't think we can stop the fury.
No, I don't think we can.
It's
I
out
think
and about.
the fury is happening.
Yeah.
You've seen the internet.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it out there.
Well, I've heard it from Leo over the last few minutes. It's really angry.
Mainly about that zebra crossing.
I know.
Yeah. Honestly, one Beatles cover, and he was obsessed.
He loved it.
Why can't they be tartan? Why can't we just have one tartan zebra crossing?
I feel somehow that would cause traffic accidents.
Right.
I don't know why, but it'd be too confusing. People would be walking the wrong way.
Looking for shortbread under it.
Tartan was the Scottish rainbow originally, though.
Right, let's move on to the eye. Take us through the front page, Gary.
Just talking nonsense now, really. OK, pupils face online lessons as teachers plan strike. So, of course, all the lost time pupils had at school over lockdown, this is all happening again, and there's no chance of having any normality of an education anymore. And teachers going on strike, of course, everyone's going on strike. I'm off to Australia on Tuesday. I'm staying out there for 3 months. I think I might just stay there and never come back because this whole country's just collapsing now, isn't it, into strikes and anger. When I was at school, we used to joke about burning the school down and having a day off. But nowadays, they can't even joke about that because they're not wanted. You've got to burn your own house down if you want to avoid lessons now. So I don't know how this ends. I feel sorry for the kids now. I don't know what the repercussions really are going to be of this completely stilted education. A few months in school and a few months out again, and we won't know for a number of years. But I doubt we're going to find out. Hey, that worked. Yeah,
and also, I mean, it seems a bit rough for teachers to be striking when they weren't they weren't going into schools over lockdown. They worked from home or whatever I don't even know what they did. But, they weren't going out, like Tesco. People who worked in Tesco, they were the real, heroes, going in, and also risking getting COVID when we thought it might actually be dangerous.
To hell with teachers. Yeah. Do you know what?
They only work about 2 hours a day anyway.
I worry about saying anything to upset the nurses or the train drivers, whatever, because that might come back on me. I might be on a train, I'll meet one of those train drivers who watch this programme and he'll get angry. But teachers, that's never happening for me again. Hell with them. Hell, don't pay him anything.
Check to see how powerful their ability to give detention is. Because I don't know. You need to read the small print. They could probably still do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Now?
Maybe.
That'd be awful.
And then we can move on to the front page of The Sun. Sausage, Leo.
That's right. So Harry was made to feel less important than William as a child by getting fewer sausages at breakfast, says Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell. The other sausages were found in his attic. But yeah, this is one of the subtle tricks that the royals used to undermine. They hated Meghan back then, before she'd even been born, before they'd ever met. They were institutionally racist against Harry. Before they even knew he was going to marry Meghan, so they gave him fewer sausages. I don't know. This seems. Is this real?
It feels like it's not that much of a real story.
It could. You know, I tell you, I've been crying all this week after reading Spare by Prince Harry. It's so sad. And no, because I relate to Prince Harry because, you know, I also grew up believing I wasn't next in line for the throne. And it was. He says in his book at one point, I'm never going to be king. And I was like, yes, you know, someone else who gets it. And knows, someone else who knows how I feel. Yeah. And it's hard. You know, it's hard knowing you're not going to be the monarch. But it's weird. He's got this thing. It maybe happen. And if so, that's kind of cruel, isn't it? You can't have the extra sausage because you're not going to be king.
That's worse than not being king, I think.
Yeah.
He's
also said that he believes he's like an organ farm for his brother, which, I mean, if that was...
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen that film. That was like a science fiction film.
Harry the Organ Farm.
Yeah. I don't think that was me.
He grew up with Harry, don't smoke, those are William's lungs you're damaging, you know. So yeah. It was pretty awful.
So when he says spare, like he really means...
he means it, yes. What's real and what's not, I don't know. But
I think this is one of these cases of a journalist saying to somebody, we'll give you $2,500 if we can run this story, and them going, yeah, all right then.
Are you saying that Paul Burrell might be in something for money?
I think it's sad and it's so incredibly petty when it comes down to a sausage between brothers, doesn't it, really?
The bit where it says that he was made to feel like he was less important. I mean,
one
we're
sausage
brutally
less.
honest. No, he actually is less important, isn't
Yes.
he?
Yeah.
It's the one family where you definitely know that one brother is more important than the other one.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, deal with it. That's
like most families.
Like most families, indeed. Well, that's all for part one, but join us after the break when we'll find out if girls still run the world, if 16 is too young to determine your gender, and if the effect of train strikes is having a bit of a problem for sex workers. We'll see you in 2.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Stephen Allen, and comedians Leo Kearse and Kerry Marks. Let's now move on to Monday's Guardian, and there's another job that young people are told that they can't do, Kerry.
This is young people warned not to be exploited as money mules for UK criminal gangs. You think the term money mule would put you off to start with when you're someone, do you want to be a money mule? He's like, I don't really want to be a mule, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be your ass.
Yeah.
But
they can't have children, can they, mules?
Can they not?
I don't think so.
What happens?
You know,
how do they get around that?
Bloodline stops. Well, you mate a donkey with a horse.
Right, yes.
Or a horse
of
with
course
a donkey.
you do, yeah. And you're at the end of the line.
Creates a mule, but that's I don't know why they make them. I don't know if it's got an advantage over a horse or a donkey.
How does that help you move money around, though?
Well, they're used for carrying stuff because you can't use them for making more donkeys.
There's nothing in it for them, though, if they can't breed. What do they need money for?
They've become a useful metaphor.
Oh.
And that was worth their existence.
They don't do it out of choice, which I guess is why, you know, it's used in cases like this, because this is kids being used. Criminals transfer money into their bank account to sort of launder the money, and the kid has to spend the money. I mean,
they transfer it to a third kid, don't they? And then that way it's covered up. So
yeah, there's a sort of, you know, a daisy, so it's harder for the police to trace. But this kid says, you know, the kids get told, oh, you're going to make £4,000 if you let us launder money through your account, and they don't. This guy gave them his bank card, which seems like if you give your bank card to criminals, not only are you not going to make any money, but you're going to lose whatever money you had in that account. And then
this is the kid called Mark, isn't it? But it says not his real name, so that makes a big difference. You know, like if he was called John, we'd go, oh, not John. So they've had to change his name.
But he's actually not called Mark, so we're slowly narrowing it down. Yeah. Eventually, we'll get there.
But he got offered. He got £4,000 offered to him, which. You know, for a kid right now, it's about the only way they can make money. Yeah. It's not terrible, is it? And that'll be £4,000 profit, which... But I imagine that the money mules will be going on strike soon as well. I mean, everyone else is out at it.
Well, he didn't make any money. He lost £50 from his account. And also it means they then can't... it affects their credit score, and they can't open bank accounts.
Yeah. Why don't we just legalise criminality? Do you know what I mean? This would all stop, wouldn't it?
Sadiq Khan is working on it.
Yeah, so. We're going that way.
It's interesting in the story because it's the West Midlands Police Commissioner and HSBC are behind this campaign telling them not to. Now, the Police Commissioner makes sense, don't do crime. HSBC are very much getting in the, you shouldn't be transferring money. Leave it to us.
Yeah.
They're trying to get their own little...
the listening bankers, they used to be called, are always telling other people what to do, aren't they?
Have they not heard of Bitcoin, these criminals?
Yeah, I know. I know. There's a way around it.
I'm no criminal, but I think I'd know what to do. Monday's Times, and now Keir Starmer's getting tough on the issue of gender identity. Has he won you over, Leo?
Yes, he has, basically. So Keir Starmer says 16-year-olds are too young to decide if they want to change their gender. I mean, what a bigot. Harvard University says infants know if they're transgender or not. So, yeah, Keir Starmer is actually... This is another case where Keir Starmer is sort of tacking to the right over something. He's done it over immigration and the NHS. Now he's got concerns over Scotland's gender recognition law because he thinks, you know, the age of 16 is too young to change gender. The gender recognition bill that was passed in Scotland, by the way, as well as lowering the age at which children can legally change their gender. And by the way, in Scotland, they allow far younger people to embark on the actual change. So the clinic in Glasgow, the gender clinic in Glasgow, prescribes puberty-blocking hormones to children as young as 9, which is crazy. Even with the lower life expectancy in Scotland, that's still very young. And it's also got other issues with it around, you know, access, men getting access to single-sex spaces such as changing rooms or prisons. So, you know, a man who's convicted of a sex crime can then change his name, and as well as then getting access to a women's prison to commit more sex crimes, it also expunges all the details of his crime because they'll be committed and he'll be sentenced under his old name, and he gets a new name. He gets to be called, you know, Beryl or whatever. And so anybody Googles Beryl, his old crimes won't come up.
Who would want to be a Beryl?
That was just an example.
That was a terrible example.
Yeah, especially
There's
for
so
Scotland.
many better names to
There
have.
are Beryls in Scotland.
He says he wants to modernise the legislation to take out the indignities, which is a very odd sentence, really. It doesn't make it clear. That could be anything, couldn't it? And And what it actually says is Scotland's gender recognition law, because he considers the age of 16 too young to decide to change gender. That's what it says here, but it actually means change legal gender. You can still say you're whatever you like. You know, obviously there's no rules on that. You can say you're a teapot if you want to, and there's no law saying you can't pretend you're a teapot.
Have you got to
but you
one
cannot
hand
get
like this?
law.
You've got to put one hand like this and one hand like that.
You've practised, haven't you?
I'm a sugar
you've been a teapot before. I knew you had. Just the first time I saw you. The SNP passed legislation last month that will allow trans people to obtain a gender recognition certificate without the need for a medical diagnosis. Why do you need a certificate then? I mean, if you can just say I'm female or I'm male in Scotland, why would you then need a certificate to say you can do it anyway? Because, like, if there was a law saying I can just say I'm a professor, I no longer need any certification, do I? Because
but the difference is, if you claim that you are a teapot, you don't have the legal status of a teapot. Therefore, if you try and sit on a shelf in John Lewis, you wouldn't be allowed. You made it a very difficult example.
I'm so glad I brought the conversation round to whether I can be a teapot or not. So,
But
you're already a teapot.
The certification says that you can go to what prison you go to, for example. I'm not saying they will go to prison. That'd be a terribly bigoted...
Teapot prison? Is that what they call it? That's what happens in Beauty and the Beast, isn't it? Those poor... crockery, trapped. That's terrifying.
It still says you need time to look in, time for a 3-month reflection period, which is 3 months of reflection, looking into a mirror, seeing that you have a dangly bit and working out what you are.
You get more time when you buy something from Amazon.
I got to say, I'm not against. I personally feel that everyone should change gender at 16, just because of the fun that would bring around the country, and give a couple of years, then change back again.
I think they're doing it.
We're getting that way. Give it another few years.
The interesting thing with this story as well, the use of Section 35, which we don't need to talk about now because that's just the looming, the sword of Damocles. It can only really be enacted if the law in Scotland impacts the law in the rest of the UK, rather than the rest of the UK doesn't like the decision. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens. Monday's Daily Mail, and Beyonce once said, "Who runs the world? Girls." Well, it turns out she was wrong. It's a trans woman, Gary.
It's a trans woman who's now the owner of Miss Universe pageant. I'm going to attempt this. She's called Anne. Give me a moment for the run-up. Jagrajatatip.
I think you actually got that right.
Yeah? OK. I'm good with foreign names. And she's now running the Miss Universe, which is an interesting thing for a start, because what we've seen for a while now is a problem going on with sport where trans women were able to outcompete natal women. But I think the one area in beauty pageants is where natal women are going to keep winning over trans women. I don't know, and that might be a bit divisive, but I kind of feel that could be the thing.
There was a trans woman who won a beauty pageant. I mean, she obviously was. I mean, there are some very beautiful.
Did she politically win it, or did she?
I think she politically. I think it was like.
I'm not saying that can't be.
It's like Eurovision. You know. The winning's always political rather than based on who's the best singer.
It's funny how we go through these phases with these things like beauty pageants. They go from being sexist to suddenly being empowering, and we're back at the empowering stage at the moment. So now they're a good thing. Miss Anne she gave a speech. I'll read this quickly. When I was born as a this is a speech made at the thing as a trans woman who got bullied and sexually harassed by my own teacher when I was young. Plus, I was not accepted by society. They did not want to embrace my differences. Guess what? I chose not to surrender. I turned pain into power. I turned life lessons into wisdom. And it goes on. She's basically making it about herself. This is no longer about women or about beauty pageants. It is about her struggle. So we wish good luck to her. But
I think she could be the next Andrew Tate. She could open a Hustlers Academy, because she said, in order to gain respect, you need to have success. And that's the sort of attitude I like to see. That's like some Scarface would say.
Good on her.
Yeah. That's like in Miss Universe. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. Actually, you probably start with the women.
She also said she was born in the wrong body, but she was inspired by Oprah Winfrey to aspire for a bigger career.
Well, she looks better than Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, I know. It's not a nice compliment to Oprah Winfrey. I feel like I was built in the wrong body, but I was inspired by Oprah Winfrey. I don't think Oprah Winfrey has said she was born in the wrong body, has she? But OK.
Let's move on to Monday's Guardian. Kerry, equal marriage is in the news. It's like it's been 2013 again.
Equal marriage in the Church of England. Do you know what? I thought we'd already done that. I didn't know we still didn't have equal marriage in the Church of England. I thought that was something passed a few years ago, but apparently not. It's like when you find a celebrity still alive, you know, the usual was passed on. And this is particularly told through two people here, civil partners, Jay Green and Rev Marion Clutterbuck, which is such a superb name.
Yeah.
I'd love to grow up as tidy your room. No, I'm a clutterbuck. What do you expect of me? You know, you're so disorganised. That's
also sounds
because
like
I'm a clutterbuck. But
sounds like the worst swear word that she's allowed to say as a Church of England.
Yeah. Like she started saying a swear word and has got out of it. Like, you clutterbuck. It's got that too, isn't it? I don't know. I think all marriage is gay, personally. Have you ever been to a wedding? It's one of those issues I don't really... I'm not a Christian, I'm not a member of the Church of England, so I don't really feel like I have a lot of say on it, but it's one of those issues of civil liberty that doesn't infringe on anyone else. You know, if gay people get married, it doesn't mean you cannot get married now. So there's no infringement whatsoever.
And even the clergy themselves, like you'll have the choice, you'll have a conscience clause. So if you're like, no, but it says in the Bible, we've got to do what the Bible says because this is church. It's like
that's how they
church doing what it says in the Bible. What a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
But you know, if they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. So yeah, the ones that want to do it can do it, and yeah, it doesn't infringe on anybody. And I think, you know, they've been together 23 years. Like, how is them getting married more of an insult to whatever, the church or whatever, than Britney Spears getting married and annulling it the next day?
Yeah. The thing I don't understand is why would you want to be part of a group, an organisation that rejects you so thoroughly? Why would you want to be married by an organisation that at the moment is going, nah, come on, that's not what it says?
Like, you've never seen Fight Club.
No, I have, but I've not seen the version where they get married.
No, but they get rejected.
Can I remind you that the Church of England did start over the fact that it had to change its ways from the Catholic Church, right? It was to allow for a divorce. So surely it's supposed to be about change, isn't it? Or it had, I mean, from what I understand of it, so I think there is an argument. I think there's an argument for people wanting to change any system from within, but I agree with you totally.
Monday's Daily Star, Kerry, and when it comes to strikes, it's the sex workers that I feel for, but you do have to pay for even that.
We're told sex workers are the real victims of train strikes as Randy Punters can't get into the city.
Is that a man's name, Randy Punter?
Randy Punter, yeah. I mean, you know, he kind of had his life cut out at that point, didn't he?
He was never going to meet a clutterbuck.
It was bad enough to have the surname Punter. You think his parents would have thought that through. Who's taking a train to go into London for an escort anyway? They don't support your local escorts.
You probably get a better quality, a better value.
Yeah, totally.
Escort out in the streets.
Yes, less publicly used. The Emma from escort agency London Deluxe told the Daily Star that her company has been losing business worth over £20,000 a week. They're doing all right as a result of the strike, and that contacts other agencies told her they've been losing as much as 70,000, so they're doing a lot better than she is.
Right.
And she said, "My girls have bills to pay." Emma said they're not making any money.
So maybe they could get a real job.
Well, I think the train strikes should... There is a gig economy being damaged by the train strikes, which I think they should lay on a strike every day for prostitutes and comedians. Sorry,
I think
punters and comedians. But...
Prostitutes and comedians should get to drive the trains. Just press a couple of buttons, you say something over the loudspeaker like, "Oh, sorry, the train's been delayed here just to mess with you." We all know there's no reason to delay it. So, yeah.
But if they made 70 grand last week, surely you can afford to not earn that much this week. If I'd have pulled in that kind of top dollar, not that I'm implying in any way I escort, but if I'd have earned that much money, I reckon I could handle a few days of strike.
Wow, you'd be a harsh madam.
Still got the bills to pay.
Girls, you've made enough money, now stop it.
Yeah, you've got to pay your pimp.
Yeah,
you've got
it's a lot of costs.
Yeah, pay for a lot of mouthwash.
Well, on that note, it's it for part 2. Join us after the break for a switch to lorry-sized homes. Which country is it illegal to flush the toilet in after 10 p.m? And what on earth has got these German riot police stuck in the mud? We'll see you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's get straight back into it with everyone's favourite eco-warrior and her latest escapades, Leo.
Yeah, so eco-warrior Greta Thunberg has been detained by police at an ultra-violent climate protest. There's a headline for you. So she was in the small German village of Lützerath, so it's been razed to the ground to open a coal mine. And, 20 years ago, left-wing people were angry that coal mines were being closed. Now they're angry that they're being opened because they can't make up their mind. They're just angry, and they want something to be angry about. So yeah, she was detained, and they said that one of the spokeswomen, a spokeswoman for the organisers, who's called Endrigo, told a press conference the police had gone in with pure violence, but the protesters were throwing Molotov cocktails. So this is pretty serious, serious stuff. This isn't your sort of net zero. The wimpy guys we get in this country who just like sit in the road with their herbal teas and like have a little banner. And, because everybody's so polite in this country, we actually stop for them instead of ploughing right through them like we should. So, so the police have used massive batons, pepper spray, water cannons.
What's the massive batons?
They
have extra big batons, are they? Or was this someone...
Not one for the relay race.
Extra big, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This wasn't being described by someone feeling a bit sexually desperate, was it? Oh, their batons were massive. Well, you sure they were?
Yeah, pepper spray, water cannons, dogs and horses. I mean, yeah, that does sound a bit sexy.
Oh, yeah, when you spray dogs and horses, that's
awful.
Doesn't it
make you wish you were a policeman now? Because I always thought, I couldn't join the police because we sort of missed out in the glory years of being able to beat up hippies in the 60s.
Also,
now they're coming back.
Yeah, we never had the water cannons. Boris bought them, then they turned out to be redundant, and I wouldn't trust myself behind a water cannon. I'm quite a nice person, I think. But
you could fill it with crude oil.
Oh, hell with it.
Imagine that.
I'd be keeping an old lady up in the air for as long as possible. If I had a water cannon, I'd be one of the worst people on earth. I'd be trying to move people's hats and umbrellas to one side and move them to the other side and see if they can get anywhere near each other,
The thing is, you wouldn't be allowed to use it because since then, even though it rained on every day, we've had a drought and a hosepipe ban constantly in place. So there's no point buying a water cannon if you can't even use a hosepipe. The best, I think, a lovely bit in the story is when she was dragged away by the police. Speaking at the protest, she said, Germany is really embarrassing itself right now. I think they might have done worse. If they can carry that on their shoulders. Yeah. But we can link it in with this one, the Monday's Express, Kerry. Mother Earth is getting involved in this eco-battle as well.
We've shown the video already, haven't we? The police being stuck in the mud.
Did it
and
play?
falling
I
over.
missed it.
I think it played at the beginning, I'm not sure. But if not...
Let's see it again. Come on.
Can we see it again?
It's worth having a look.
Is it there? Ready to go? Oh, there we go, look.
I mean, that's just
You can see where the police are being accused of being stuck in the mud, as they always have been. There's a monk who comes in for no reason, not behaving as a monk normally would. There's the police who've been trying for all their history to get away from the epithet of being called pigs, and now they're crawling around in the mud, which isn't helping at all. This is better. It's great. It's better than a rehearsed clown show, and I think it makes the police kind of lovable, to be honest. But it's not what they're looking for. I mean, at the same time, it does sort of undermine their authority.
Yeah, they don't.
I think.
I mean, a guy dressed as a monk just
knocking the police over. And you can see the other police just stood there just looking so humiliated by the behaviour that just bring them down.
How come monks have got climate protesting monks have got better footwear than actual police?
I think what we need is that video. We can't do it again now because we're not prepped it. But that with sound effects of whoop, boink. That's the one we should be watching on news.
Yes. It says the police later dragged off protesters, some of whom had taken refuge in a series of tree houses. They obviously don't know much about eco-protesters. That's not refuge, it's where they live.
Swampy style.
Swampy style.
Indeed, swampy style, with the way. So, look, the mud has turned against the people trying to stop these eco-protesters. So Gaia is fighting back.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, Steve. Yes, that's
Is it a good way of looking at it?
Quite a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Even I don't think it's a good way of looking at it.
Well, because Gaia is supposed to be a self-managing system that, would fight back, like Avatar a bit. I think that's where he got the idea from.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, it's ridiculous. We need to get the coal out of the ground and burn it, just for fun, just to make people angry.
You just want people to be angry, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
All the time.
They already are.
I'm getting to like Greta more and more, by the way. I see her in a few interviews and so on. It doesn't matter what she thinks or how she expresses herself. I think she's quite sweet. She giggles a lot and she's quite funny. People made a big deal about her with the Andrew Tate thing where she accused him of having a small penis, which, as a flippant remark, the fact it worked was, impressive. But they're treating it like it was like the most... But we've been working as comedians for years, and then someone calls someone and says someone's got a small penis, and we're like, that's amazing. No, it's not.
Also, by doing that, she's making climate change a very partisan issue. So to combat climate change, it doesn't need to be combated, by the way. But to combat it, if you wanted to do that, you'd really need to get people like Andrew Tate on board, because he's got 33 cars and he drives them around. You can't get just the tofu-eating vegans on board. They can't afford a car because they're useless. So you really need to get people who drive big Audis and Range Rovers and stuff, get them on board. And you're not going to do it by, alienating anybody who's,
She got him arrested eventually.
I thought you were going to say that she needs to get the small penis on board.
Yeah, and them as well.
Because if ever there's a category of people who... Because, temperature's a factor. Global warming, if anything, is going to help their problem. You've got to try and get them on board.
She said Harry was one short of a sausage. one sausage short of a king.
Monday's Daily Mail, Leo, and speaking of cars, not even the self-driving ones are going to save us.
So self-driving cars could double congestion on the roads by 2060 because of a surge in traffic caused by increased mobility of the elderly and people without a driving licence. So once they're driving around, you've got the self-driving cars. Anybody can hail one. Like you get an Uber, it'll be like that, but there won't be a driver. And it'll be cheaper because there won't be a driver. I mean, the big cost in an Uber is the fact that it's got to support somebody who's got to feed his family and all the rest of it. Now, we're going to get rid of those people. They can probably be, turned into dog food or something. And now computers are going to do it all for us. Although we'll be replaced by computers as well. But apparently a lot of hours are lost to congestion. So the average driver lost 80 hours to congestion last year. And if you're doing a lot of driving, if you're an Uber driver or something like that, you're going to lose any more. And in London, it's even worse. So the average driver in the capital spends an average of 156 hours sitting in traffic. So that's like 20 full days, 8-hour days sitting in traffic. It's crazy. And the great thing about driverless cars is because there's going to be a time when there's driverless cars on the road, but we'll also be driving around as well. You can just drive at these driverless cars because they're fitted with sensors and stuff. They see you coming, they've got to move out of the way because they're a robot. They just respond. So you can totally bully them.
Yeah, because there's no worry of robots at some point reaching a level of consciousness and rising up against us.
This is when we need to bully the robots so they know who's really in charge.
Yeah, and they'll remember that later on.
You've got to drive
like, we remember you driving our car, and even the toaster will be angry with you one day in the future.
I say thank you to my Alexa just in case the uprising.
Yeah, totally. I'm extra polite as well.
You got your toaster in the bath then.
Yeah, don't do it. No, you're killing the toaster as well. You forget about that. They'll be angry about it one day. This is one of those examples where efficiency actually makes things more inefficient because everyone's going to be using driverless cars. Old people who wouldn't drive normally can sit in a car all day, and they will sit in all day. So very often efficiency makes things less efficient. And it's very much like when Viagra came out, and it meant that lots of old people could have sex who weren't able to before, and the result of that was a lot of very damaged old vaginas. I wish I hadn't said that. I was trying to think of a way out of the point I was making, and I realised I'm going to leave anyway. It's been fun doing this, but...
This is just a nonsense report. I mean, this isn't actually going to happen. They're going to find efficient ways of the cars...
No, they won't.
No, they will, because they're self-driving. They'll be able to sit very close to each other and form almost trains. So it'll actually be very...
If it works properly, what goes wrong in traffic is that all the cars should move together once movement starts, and it doesn't happen. They move one at a time and everyone bunches up.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if they can work together, everything moves far more efficiently. But there'll be more cars on the road. There'll be people who will not even get in the car. If you've got a driverless car, you'll send the car to work for you and probably do the job for you as well.
And to be fair, though, you made the very good point that the old people won't be in cars because, thanks to Viagra, they are very busy at home doing other stuff that you rapidly described.
Or getting the train into London to see Moscow.
I'm sorry I said broken old vaginas, by the way. It just came out.
Well, let's move on to the next one. Monday's Daily Mail, Leo. If you think someone has left a Swiss chocolate in a pot overnight, you might be in for a surprise.
So these are 21 of the world's most bizarre laws. So you can't give alcoholic drinks to a moose in Alaska. They're all based on proper reasons. So somebody got a moose drunk. And so then the moose went on a rampage, so now they've got to... I mean, luckily it didn't have hands, so it couldn't operate an automatic weapon.
But it got drunk. The moose got drunk.
The moose got drunk.
And then they've made a law stopping you giving alcohol to... Which is like that, when the comedian has all the rider. When you get that comedian who drinks all the drinks that are available backstage and has all the big meal overspent, and as a result, the club says some comedian has abused this and no comedians get any drink anymore.
I did that.
Right? This is what the moose has done.
I did that in a terrible gig in a sushi bar, and then I went back the next time I was booked for it. I was like, oh yeah, can't wait to do this gig. And then stopped doing it. But, some of the other laws, it's illegal to fall asleep in a meeting with Kim Jong-un. I couldn't believe it. So a defence minister was executed with an anti-aircraft gun. After falling asleep in a meeting with Kim. That was in 2014.
He should be more interesting then, shouldn't he? He should take on himself.
You'd think, but when you're Kim Jong-un, you can just kill people who, instead of doing the groundwork yourself. But 2 years later, a vice premier for education fell asleep in a meeting with him and was executed. You think, after the one thing you're going to do is not fall asleep in a meeting with Kim Jong-un. But no, you're not allowed to drunkenly ride a cow in Scotland. They're talking about the animal.
Can you ride it so you can be sober and ride it then?
Oh, you can be sober.
Oh, that's all right then.
You sober, or is the cow sober?
I don't know. I don't think it matters.
Confused. Well, I mean, I'll try and stick to all those rules. Let's move on. And coming up, why Blue Monday is the most depressing day of the year, why men don't have friends, and why witches are making a comeback. We'll see you in 2.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue,
Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and we're about to go through a Blue Monday, which sadly isn't blue because it's a blue movie, which is why I'm now depressed. This is from the Daily Mail, Kerry.
Yeah, those scientist types, and not the good ones, but the ones with way too much time on their hands, have decided that tomorrow, Monday, is called Blue Monday because it's the saddest day of the year. Like you can tell anymore. Like you can tell, with everything happening around us, people are more depressed today than they are all year round, generally anyway, about everything. And they say, apparently this is psychologist Dr. Cliff Arnold, who worked out a formula to show how the third Monday in January is especially bad. I think they came up with this back in the days when there was one sad day a year, you know, when people used to cry in their affordable homes for a day, just for fun, because they had nothing else to do, because they had so much time to have other kinds of fun. And basically, it's after Christmas, and they're saying what you should do about it is health experts recommend a mix of exercise, fruit and veg, vitamin D to help raise your mood. Like, even health experts have become so dull now. It's never like eat dog food or anything else like that. That'll kill you. Yeah. Unless you watch TikTok, which will give you that as an answer.
That's a depressing recommendation. I feel worse after hearing the recommendation.
Yeah, totally. Mondays are sad. They're the beginning of a week. Like, it's the day when you go, oh, I've got to do all this again.
Yeah. Well, this is why they pick it, isn't it? Because also January is the worst of all the months, and then 3 in means you're furthest away from the payday and blah, blah. These are the kind of news stories where they write down an equation that means nothing. You put a sigma in there, you look like fancy.
Well, they've got factors including the average time for New Year's resolutions to fail. So apparently right about now, everybody's smarking up a cigarette or having a drink or taking some heroin for...
Oh, that's a good idea. Come on.
It's better than vitamin D rubbish, isn't it?
Totally.
Let's move on to the Guardian, and journalists at the Guardian have found a new way to make themselves even more boring, giving up alcohol, Leo.
Yeah, so this is, following on from what we're talking about, New Year's resolution. Apparently, lots of people are just giving up alcohol anyway, especially young people. So between 2002 and 2019, so that's roughly, it's just under 2 decades, the number of 16 to 24-year-olds in England who reported monthly drinking fell from 67% to 41%. So that's less than half. I can't imagine that. Like, when I was aged 16 to 24, 5 years ago, that would have been unthinkable, going, like, more than half of you not drinking in an entire month. A month is a huge amount of time, especially when you're young. So that's ridiculous. And apparently Bumble, the dating app, is reporting that 1/3 of its British users are now more likely to go on a dry date.
And have a dry after date as well.
Yeah. With the broken old...
We all know...
I've apologised and I regret saying that.
And Professor David Nutt, who was fired as the government's drug czar for suggesting that ecstasy wasn't as dangerous as alcohol. In fact, none of the drugs were as dangerous as alcohol. So he's actually come up with... he's invented new drugs that are like alcohol, that you drink, but you don't get wasted. You just you stay at the sort of steady buzz.
I like David Nutt. He was great, actually. He got fired, didn't he, at the time?
He's got a great name for...
Yeah, it's a really good name.
Getting off your...
I don't understand people who are against addiction. I don't know how they get out of bed, They don't have any reason to, but they still manage somehow. I think what happened is that our generation was so much fun, and each generation then rebels, and so they've rebelled this time by becoming just incredibly boring. I mean, they're right. They're absolutely righteous.
Yeah.
But how dull.
Yeah.
Monday's Mail, Carey, and men are being scammed by women claiming to cast spells for them.
I don't think it says just...
They should be reviewed by... Which magazine? You've got to let me get to the fun. Come on, I worked on that.
Very nice. I don't think it's just women, though. I think there's con artists of men as well, but rather than just... You're right, there's plenty of women. but
the joke doesn't work if it's Warlock magazine.
I know, I realise what you did there. Self-proclaimed witches, voodoo practitioners and healers are conning desperate people, says the Daily Mail. What do they mean, are conning? It's like they've been holding on to this story since the beginning of human history. This has been going on for a very long time. I am I'll just mention, I'm off to Australia for a few months and I'm doing a show around Australia called The Dead Don't Heckle, and it's really about this. It's about all the pseudosciences and so on, which we've had for a long time. Homeopathy is still a massive, it's a massive $1 million industry. We had 3 homeopathic hospitals paid for by the NHS a few years ago, which fortunately they shut down. That was the madness of the time, you know. And if you know much about homeopathy, it's like the idea that water has memory, which it doesn't. If water had memory, then water wouldn't go into a kettle because it would remember what you did to it last time. You know, you wouldn't have to build dams because you just have to spank a canal and tell it not to do that again. But we're in the age of crazy and all these type of energies, ghost energy, and I call this energy, I'm going to use the word S-energy for that swear word, because it's a really weak, pathetic energy that can summon ghosts. It can cure diseases that cure themselves anyway if you leave them alone, nothing big. It can bend a fork, but it can't make a fork.
Right,
you know, it can't put a fork straight. Yeah. It can bend it or ruin your house key. Sorry.
I think some of the tenets of homeopathy are being used by the NHS now. So the idea that you can dissolve, you know, a small bit of something that might be useful in a huge amount of water. So the NHS has taken a small amount of doctors and dissolved them across the whole.
There's a lovely stat, because I used to be a chemist before all of this, so I love talking chemistry. It's something like the concentrations they deal with in homeopathy, there's a 40% chance there's not even a single molecule of the thing you're talking about.
Oh, much bigger chance. Nothing. There's virtually no chance of any of it. And once you've watered it down over, and you also don't have to bang it like 9 times or so, something. It depends which mix you're doing with.
It's like buying cocaine in London.
Yes.
Mondays,
very much like that.
Move on to Monday's Metro. There's an epidemic of loneliness among men, Leo, and if it's an epidemic, we should stay isolated.
Yeah, well, we never go and spend any time together after the show because we're men, and that's men. Men don't have friends. This person doesn't realise it. This guy is saying, "Where have all my friends gone?" Oh, what? You want friends? You want?
It's a sign of weakness.
It's a loser wants friends. Why men are having a loneliness crisis and how they can fix it. They can fix it by not worrying about it. You're not supposed to have any friends. You're a man. You're supposed to just be stoic and austere and play PlayStation. But yeah, this guy, you know, the modern world is not built for men, you know, I guess...
Not for Sam Eccles. Is that his name?
Eccles. So,
E-K-L-L-S?
Eccles. Yeah, he needs more vowels in his... That's why he's his friend. His vowels are in the wrong place.
Hello, Mr. Eccles. No one can even talk to him.
But he after he left school, he didn't make any friends.
It's a bad novel, isn't it, this?
Lives in Milton
Why have they written a whole story about some bloke we don't know?
But he finally started playing football, and then he made friends with the people he plays football with.
But that's a terrible novel. I was having such a really bad life, and it was awful. I had no friends. Then I found football. Like, oh, thanks. That was worth a whole page or 2.
Yeah.
And really, what this is... you know, he's saying that men don't hang around much more anymore, and that's because men can't hang around and banter like they used to and have a bit of fun around the pub without getting into any kind of trouble.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think you're in trouble all the time. It's over nowadays. They don't have the same kind of man friends. Maybe that's the cause.
And also
maybe
the atomization of modern life. We're all separated, and you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as someone who is like Northern Generation X bloke, I don't need emotions. I don't need friends.
Yeah.
I don't understand a word of this entire article.
Yeah, quite right, Steve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you have people slowing you down like
Just
that?
A pint of bitter and a...
It's a little cry, but
I love how you justify your empty existence, Steve.
Well, that's all we've got time for. Thank you to my lovely guests, but not friends, Leo Kearse and Kerry Marks. Headliners, we're back tomorrow at 11 with Simon Evans, Josh Howie and Nick Dixon. And remember that Headliners is repeated at 1 a.m. and at 5 a.m, which, if you're up watching, you can stay tuned for The Breakfast Show just after the break. And we're back tomorrow at 11 for more Headliners. Till then, have a good one.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in.